Hi, I'm Glenn Rogers, and this is American Perspectives. In this video, we're going to talk about Christian political activism. Specifically, the question, should Christians be active in politics? Now, for some people, it might be obvious. They go, well, why not? But there are many people out there who say, no, Christians shouldn't be active in politics. They have a number of different reasons for feeling that way, but it's an important question, and so we want to talk about it. But for a moment, I want to ask you to do something for me. It would be very helpful to our channel here if you would subscribe to the channel. Just click the little button down below there where it says subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything. You're not obligated in any way. Nobody's going to bother you. What it does basically is it tells YouTube that people are liking the content of this channel, and the video then moves up through their algorithms so that more people have an opportunity to see the videos. So if you could subscribe, that would be great. Maybe hit the little thumbs up button, which is like a like button. There's a button to share this video with other media platforms, and there's a comments section. So any of that you can do, we would really appreciate it. It would be very helpful to us. Okay, should Christians be active in politics? I would say, yeah, sure, of course. The more we do, the better. But there are some Christians who believe that politics is such a bad thing, that the whole environment of politics is so corrupt that Christians should just stay away from it. And you can find that in some conservative strains of Christian thought, going all the way back into the mid-1800s here in America. And some of those thinkers were educators, and they established Christian colleges, and for a long, long time, these conservative Christians would discourage people from being involved in politics. And I think that was a horrible mistake. I think one of the reasons, if we can say that politics is very corrupt and there are issues out there, I think one of the reasons that is true is probably because over the years, over the decades, over the centuries, we haven't had more Christians involved in politics. And so, yes, Christians ought to be involved. And if someone says, well, why? Give me a reason. Well, because we want to make America the very best place it can be for people to live in. There is no such thing as a perfect person. All of us are flawed. And since a society is simply a group of people that live in a specific geographic region, then there are no perfect societies. Okay, there never have been any perfect societies, and there won't ever be any perfect societies because they're made up of flawed people. But we can at least try to make the society, in this case America, the very best place it can be. Now, how do we do that? Well, there are several things that Christians can do, and that's who I'm talking to here. I'm saying Christians need to be involved in politics, so I'm going to be talking to Christians here. If you're not a Christian, don't tune out. Please continue to listen, because there's some important stuff here that would be helpful to you, even if you're not a Christian. But the things that Christians can do to help make America the best place it can be, the very first thing has to do with voting. Now, I've made another video before, a few weeks ago, called Casting a Meaningful Vote. And if you haven't watched that yet, you might want to, after this video, go back and watch that one and kind of put the two together. But the idea that voting is a right here in this country is only half of it. It's also a privilege, and it's also a blessing, okay, that we get to vote. Our voice matters. But voting isn't something that to be taken lightly. Okay, voting is a serious thing. You don't vote for somebody because they're a nice person and they're kind of grandfatherly, or she's such a nice lady and she says nice things in a nice way. You don't vote for somebody because they're nice. That's not a good reason to vote for somebody. I mean, it's great if somebody is a nice person, but that doesn't qualify them to be the leader of the free world. Just being nice. Okay, that's no reason to vote for somebody. And because somebody is considered not very nice, not very friendly, well, that's no reason not to vote for them, because that's not part of the job. Okay, you don't vote for somebody or not vote for them because of their personality or because of their ethnicity or because of their gender. None of those things matter. What matters is that they're the best qualified candidate. And there are several things that we need to think about in relationship to our candidates, and we need to be voting for candidates that understand certain things. And number one is that they need to understand that as a society, our first responsibility is to our own people and society. I think we spend way too much money on other countries, many of which don't even like us, or they are outright enemies of America, and yet we send them hundreds of billions of dollars a year before taking care of our own needs here in this country. Now, just think about that from a family point of view for a moment, okay? This is an analogy, all right? So you got a family, you got mom and dad and a couple of kids, you got a house, you got a couple of cars, and you got income, and you spend that income taking care of your family. And you take care of your family first. And if there's money left at the end of the month, and you can use it then to do good and to help other people. But if your kids come in and their shoes are falling apart, he says, "Dad, I need some new shoes." It's not good to say, "Well, gee, son, I see that, and it'd be great if I could get you some new shoes, but we've already sent X number of dollars to the Smith family and the Brown family and to this agency over here that helps these people and this agency that helps those people, and so there's no money left. We can't buy you shoes this month. You just have to, go barefoot for a month." Well, see, if we heard about something like that going on, we wouldn't feel very good about that guy making those decisions. You take care of your family first, and then when you have left over, then you help other people. Well, it works the same way at a national level. We have people here who are really suffering, people who need help. And we have an infrastructure that needs attention. We're trying to develop alternative sources of energy that are dependable. Okay, we got all kinds of stuff that we need to do here, and we need to take care of our own needs before we start sending money all over the world, especially to people who don't even like us. That just doesn't make good sense. See, the first thing is you need to vote for a candidate that understands that. Okay. Number two, you need to vote for a candidate that understands that the best way to help people in this country is to create a business-friendly environment so that there are plenty of good paying jobs out there. Okay, the best way to help somebody is to make it possible for them to get a good paying job so they can take care of themselves and take care of their family. Well, there are certain ways that you do that if you're the party in power to create a business-friendly environment. There are certain things you do, and there are certain things you do not do, because this doesn't help, right? And so you need to make sure your candidate understands how to create a business-friendly economic environment. Third, they need to understand that the United States of America needs to be energy independent. And in order to do that, right now, at this time, we need fossil fuels. Okay? You can't just toss them out the door. Now, I'm all for environmental health. I like clean water and clean air as much as the next guy, and I'd like to have a nice, calm, temperate environment to live in. I think those are good things, but we don't have multiple reliable alternative energy sources in place yet so that we can just say, no more fossil fuels. I mean, we can't do that. And it's going to take time to develop those other reliable alternative sources of energy. And so you have to continue using fossil fuels. Well, we have enough here in this country so that we don't have to buy from other countries. And yet it seems like they're starting to move toward cutting that stuff off, before we're ready to cut that off. Well, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense at all. If you have a job that you're not happy with and you decide that you want a new job, you don't quit that job and then go look for another job, right? You don't do that. I mean, it could be weeks or months, or in some cases even years before you find another job. So you keep the job you have, and you start looking for another job, and you apply, and you interview, and you get another job. Then you go back and quit the job you don't like. Okay? Well, it works the same way with energy. You don't cut off the fossil fuel and put it aside when you don't have alternative, reliable energy sources in place that can meet all of the needs of society. And we don't have that yet. So we still need fossil fuels. You need to vote for a candidate who understands that. I'm not sure the current administration does understand that. Number 4, you need to have candidates who understand that the only way to deal with hostile foreign powers is to stand up to them and back them down, leaving no question in their minds that if military force is required, it will be used. Diplomacy is a wonderful thing if it works. But we need to understand there are lots of hardheads out there, lots of aggressive, angry people who diplomacy just doesn't work with. They don't care about diplomacy. You're going to have to back them up and sit them down and make sure they understand that there's a limit to how much we will take. You need to vote for candidates that understand that and know how to do that. Number 5, you need to vote for candidates that understand that the government's first job is securing our rights and our security, okay? Their primary job is ensuring that our rights are protected. And yet, right now, the government is one of the sources that is attempting to infringe on some of our rights. Right now, the freedom of religion, the freedom of speech, and the Second Amendment, our right to keep and bear arms, are being infringed upon, and the government is okay with it. They're not doing their job. So you need to vote for a candidate who says, wait a minute, we're going to make sure that all rights are secure for all people, and that helps with our general security. You need to vote for candidates that understand that maximum freedom for people requires a small, limited government. Now, I've said this before, and I'll keep saying it over and over again. The bigger government gets, the smaller you get. The more control government has, the less control you have. The Founding Fathers never envisioned a government nearly as big and pervasive as what we have now, that have got their fingers in all of the different pies all over the place. That's not good. And unfortunately, even many Republicans have fallen into this idea of big government that wants to run everything. You need to vote for a candidate who understands that big government is not the solution. Big government is one of the problems. And number 7, you need to vote for candidates that understand that Americans must once again learn to stop expecting the government to take care of us and learn self-reliance and personal responsibility and individual initiative. You see, the government doesn't need to take care of us. That was never the idea. The people need to take care of themselves. And that's part of being free and responsible, being self-reliant, okay, and having individual initiative and going out and getting the job done. And that's part of what made this country great. And that has fallen by the wayside. You need to vote for candidates who understand the importance of those things. So voting for the right candidate, and the right candidate is people who understand those kinds of things. Now that's just a partial list, but it's the kinds of things they need to understand. And that's something that every Christian can do, is understand the responsibility and the privilege and the blessing of being able to vote, and then taking the time to make sure you're voting for the right candidate who understands what they need to do as somebody who's going to be elected to public office. But there's other things you can do as well. You need to be involved in a broad sense of doing good. You need to volunteer in ways that make a difference. And there's just all kinds of ways to make a difference in your community, depending on where you live. Maybe you could help out in an after-school tutoring program. There are lots of children who are struggling. Maybe they don't have educated parents at home that can help them. They got nobody that can help them once they get out of school, and even in school, they may not be getting much help. So if a church started an after-school tutoring program to invite kids to come in for an hour a day and have people help them with reading and with arithmetic and those sorts of things, that'd be a great way to do something nice and impact your community. Or working in a homeless shelter, or delivering Meals on Wheels. You see, that's already set up all over the country. All you got to do is go volunteer. Anybody can do that. Or working at some sort of a food pantry center where you're helping hungry people get the food that they need. That'd be a great thing to do. Or teaching an illiterate person how to read. Do you realize how many people, even high school graduates, can't read much beyond a third or a fourth grade level? And there are many people in the country who can't read at all. And maybe you say, well, gee, I don't know how to teach somebody how to read. I mean, I know how to read, but teaching somebody how to read is kind of a complicated, process. I don't know how to do that. Well, maybe go take a class somewhere. Maybe get some training on anything. It doesn't have to be on how to teach people to read, but get some training on doing all sorts of things. Get some hospice training or whatever. Find a way to make a difference. There's all sorts of ways out there to help. Find one. The point is, we must be busy making a difference in the world. People need to see that conservative people, whether you're a Republican or an independent or a libertarian or a conservative Democrat or whatever, okay, conservative people can make a good, positive difference in the world. And that's one of the things that we need to do. And you know what else would be an excellent thing to do? Now, this might be a little scary for some people, but it doesn't need to be. Look into it. That you can actually run for local office. You could run for city council, or you could run for the school board and get on the school board and be involved in those sorts of things. Have some way to impact what's going on in your community and in your schools. Okay? Get involved and make a difference. That's one of the most important things that conservative people can do, and Christians ought to be involved in those things. And that's part of being involved in society and being involved in politics.